Howdy and welcome. Today I have a really cool project I'm working on. We have a pair of Nick's wedge mock toe boots that we're going to be converting from a stitch down construction to a 360 Goodyear welt. Now what is a stitch down and what is a Goodyear welt? It's basically just how the shoes are made and how the soles attach to the shoes. The stitch down, if you see here, has the leather uppers come down, they flare out. And that's what the midsole gets stitched to. You see, that's right there is where the stitch down portion stops, and the rest of this is just nailed directly to the shoe. Whereas this one is a Goodyear welt conversion now, where we take a separate piece of leather, the leather uppers come down and tuck underneath. We stitch on a secondary piece of leather all the way around the boot, put on a midsole, stitch the midsole to that welt, and then we put our new soles on. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to explain to you why we're doing it to this customer's boots. He had 2 pairs he sent in, so it's going to be a fun project. I've been waiting for a really long time to do this. I'm really excited. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Oliver the Shoe Man. I am a 5th generation shoe cobbler. So I fix, alter, and customize boots. Now let's get into it. Now again, the question of why we do this still remains. You can see here, this customer wears out the tips of his soles really fast. And it's, like I said, this was the second pair. We're working on this other one too. He brought 2 pairs in. And this first pair he sent back to Nick's to get recrafted. And they weren't able to stitch the double row anymore. You see the 2 rows of stitching? They weren't able to do that. So they just stitched the 1 row, and it kind of looked kind of weird with the 1 row, but it being a double row. Anyway, so that's why we're doing that. We're converting it to a 360 Goodyear belt. He saw another video of mine where we did that. He liked it, and so we're doing that today. And it's gonna be a very unique, one-of-a-kind Nick's boots. Now, I think Nick's does make a 360 Goodyear welt, but I don't think they make it in this style. So, these are gonna be one-of-a-kind, and in the future, if he does wear out, or when he does wear out the soles, and he wears into the welt, we could just replace the welt again and not have to worry about only being able to stitch 1 row, anything like that. So that's why I decided to do this. Could I have replaced the vamps itself? I could have. That would have been kind of tricky to do. We would have needed to get a last, which the last is what the boots are originally made out of, what the leather toes are shaped to. But we didn't want to go that route. That would have been really expensive. It would have been kind of cheaper to buy a new pair at that point. And I honestly don't know why Nick's didn't do that. Why they didn't just replace it, because they have all the tools and everything necessary to do so. But again, this customer wanted to personalize his boots, and the way we're going to resole them too will make them way easier to resole in the future, way cheaper to resole in the future too, and he won't have to really worry about getting his boots resoled as often as now. And I'll explain to you that later. So you can see I'm kind of struggling here taking the sole off. They really got this thing on there, which is the good thing. Nick's is a really good boot company. They make amazing boots, really well crafted boots. Oof. As a cobbler, I could tell, because I don't normally struggle to take soles and stuff off of boots, but that one was a struggle. So here we see why it's actually called a 360 Goodyear welt. Not 360, a stitch down. Because that's all one leather. They flare it out, they put the sole on, and they stitch it to that outer layer. And then this back heel section is all nailed down to the footbed. So we're gonna take all of this apart. We're gonna take the footbeds out so that we can add a gemming, so we have something to stitch the welts onto. So I'm gonna kind of skip ahead, skip all these boring parts of taking the boots apart. I'll come back when we're ready to, I guess when we have the footbeds out, so I can show you how we put the gemming on and what the gemming is. So we got the footbeds out of the shoe. And so this is what you're actually stepping on. You can see his footprint there. Now how it was attached previously. They had the lining glued down to the footbed and the uppers flared out and stitched. They had this back section nailed down to the footbed. And so now we're going to be adding a gemming. This is a gemming, just a canvas piece that has like a little, that makes like a little wall, I guess you can call it. What we're gonna do is we're gonna glue it along the outside of this footbed. And what that is going to give us is that wall is going to act as I guess a lip, you can call it, for the welt to then stitch to. I'll explain to you in a little bit more detail once I get it on here. Because at first when I learned about this, I was like, this makes no sense whatsoever. But once you start learning the different constructions of boots, you kind of learn how you can go from one to another and all that good stuff. You can't really do a Goodyear welt to a stitch down just because there's not enough of the uppers that are left to flare out, if that makes sense. I mean, you can always replace the front vamp or front portion of the shoe to give yourself more room or enough upper to convert to that stitch down. That'd be a very time consuming process though. Okay, so you see now we have kind of like a wall. We made a little bit of a cavity, which we're gonna fill that in later. So now what we're going to do, we're gonna stick this guy in here. And now, instead of flaring it out, it's gonna be difficult to show you guys. We're then gonna take our new welt. We're gonna stitch this piece, the lining, and that gemming all together, all the way around. And that's gonna give us this look. And that's gonna hold the footbeds in place and convert these from a stitch down to a Goodyear welt. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna come back and I'll kind of midway of sewing the welts on, that way you can get a better idea. So about halfway through sewing the welts on, we're using a natural storm welt as per customer's request. And you see it's coming along just fine. It's looking pretty good. And like I had said, we're sewing this lining, the upper leather, right? The lining and the gemming all together, all the way around. And that is what is locking the footbed in and giving us this Goodyear welt look. Not Goodyear welt look, actual Goodyear welt construction. And so we're just gonna continue following around the back of the heel till we can meet up here, and then we're ready for the new soles. All right, we got it stitched on all the way around. Now that cavity we made when we added that gemming, we gotta fill it with cork. once we have the cork in there, we'll put a leather midsole. Customer chose a thick leather midsole, which this is a thin one. We'll get a thick one for it, but we're gonna put that onto there. We're gonna stitch the midsoles on, then we'll be able to put our new wedge soles on. So these are coming along really nice. I'm actually loving how they are turning out. It's kind of turning out exactly how I wanted it to. Okay, so if you've seen any of my other videos or you've seen a pair of Goodyear welted boots, this should actually start looking familiar for you. Once we got the welts on, cork in, we trimmed the excess leather, that part that was flared out and stitched on. We trimmed all that. Now we're ready for our midsole. This is a 10-11 ounce leather midsole. It's our thick leather sole option, which is a great option if you want to add a bunch of stability and support to your shoes. This leather will also mold and break into your foot. It'll mold into the shape of your foot, making it a lot more comfortable. And again, the main point of adding the leather midsoles is just for that support, that extra support it gives your foot and the boot. Okay, so once we have the midsole on, we are going to stitch in the welt to the midsole. This is my outsole stitcher. I put a little groove in the midsole so that the stitches are countersunk. So if in the future we have to peel off the wedge soles for anything, we could just lightly sand the midsole and glue a new sole on, not having to worry about restitching everything. This customer wanted to go back with the wedge sole, so he chose the Vibram Christie wedge sole. This is the 4014 in cream, but he wanted something a little bit more durable as well. So what we're going to do is, once we have this on, we're going to sand it, we're going to trim it, we're going to sand the tread down, and we're going to glue a thin rubber sole on top of it. So the rubber is going to get better traction. It's going to last longer than this crepe material, and you'll also get the benefit of a wedge sole. Alrighty, this is a Spig crosshatch sole, and that's going to act as our secondary sole for these boots. So the customer will have the traction and the durability of a rubber sole, as well as the comfort of a wedge sole. All right, we are done with these beautiful boots. Like I said, the customer sent 2 pairs in. I tried my best to get the second pair done so I could show you guys both pairs, but time didn't allow for that. I do my best to get you guys videos every week, Saturday morning. It's currently 2:05 a.m. Saturday morning, so the video will go live in like 5-6 hours, and I still gotta edit it. So I really enjoy making these videos for you guys. I hope you guys enjoy them. If you can, I would greatly appreciate the support, liking it, subscribing, commenting what you guys think, sharing it with your friends. It helped me out a lot. But yeah, these boots turned out beautiful. A very unique one of two, because he sent 2 in. 360 Goodyear Welt Nix boots with a white Spig crosshatch sole and a Vibram Christie wedge sole. So now, in theory, when the customer wears down the soles, either in the heel or in the toes, kind of like he did previously, as long as he doesn't wear too far into this crepe sole, all we gotta do is peel this sole off, glue a new one on. We don't have to touch the welt, we don't have to touch the uppers, we don't have to touch anything again. So that's why we did this. This job was about $500 for the whole sole conversion. And now in the future, it should cost him no more than 120 bucks to get his boots resoled. Where he can get a pair of Nicks for 120 bucks that's already broken in, fresh new soles that are unique and customized to what the customer wants. So if you have any questions about a repair or something you want to get done, all my contact information will be down below. My shop's located in Smyrna, Tennessee, right outside Nashville. And yes, we do take mail-in repairs. So again, I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for the support. Till next week, God bless you guys.